Hello, this is Sandy Reese with StampinCrew.com. I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator. Welcome to our live Thursday tutorial. I'm coming on a little bit early. I've got an appointment at 12:30 today, so I thought, well, just better to jump on early than late. So before we get started, make sure to click subscribe if this is the first time you're watching so that you don't miss out on future videos, and I would really appreciate your support. Today we are going to do one of our workshop projects we've been working on. It's this gorgeous card using the Daffodil Daydream bundle. We're going to do a little bit of watercoloring, so I wanted to give you a couple little tips and tricks on that. Okay, let's get our pieces together here. We're just starting with Daffodil Delight cardstock, of course. All right, and then I have a piece of crumb cake, and I've used 2 of my stitched rectangle dies to cut out a little frame, about that size. I want to give a little bit of a background texture behind our frame. So from this stamp set, this is our Daffodil Daydream, that's hard to say, together fast, Daffodil Daydream bundle. It has this great kind of spatter image back here, and then we'll also be using some of the dies. All right, so I'm just going to use some crumb cake ink, and I'm just kind of stamping it up at an angle like that. Then I'm going to turn my stamp upside down and just stamp kind of next to it, kind of extending it a little bit. You could even do maybe one more there if you want. We're just getting a little bit of that texture in the middle of the card. Let's see if we can get that to lay a little flatter. Then we can go ahead and pop this up. We're actually using dimensionals on everything on this card. So we're using minis because we have some small areas we need to cover. So let's get this. Okay, just going to stick that right in the center. Now, even if your splatter were to go past the center, it's okay. This is very, fluid, so it doesn't have to be exact. Okay, let's stamp our daffodils. We've got this big daffodil image, and since we're watercoloring, we're going to use some Stays-On ink. This is waterproof and it won't smear as long as it's dry. So I'm just making sure I have really good coverage. You can give a little more pressure to the Stays-On pads because they're not as soft. And I'm just going to press, make sure I've got my ink soaking in. And then this can be a little bit sticky, the ink, so hold your paper down and gently peel that off. If you sometimes just rip it off, paper can come with it. We had that issue in a couple of our classes this month. So you just have to be gentle when you're doing that. And I'm going to go ahead and stamp a little butterfly so I can color him too. So this is where we would take our dies from Corning die set, line those up, run them through the Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine. And I've already done that just to save a little bit of time. Now let's do some coloring. I'm just grabbing a little styrofoam plate. You can use a big block, whatever you have. And I'm going to put some, that's probably even too much, Highland Heather. I'm going to put a drop of pumpkin pie. And then I've got a drop of Daffodil Delight. Just little teeny bits. And some Pear Pizzazz. All right. Next, we're going to grab one of our water painters. I've already got some water loaded in there. I'm going to start with my butterfly. We'll just get, butterfly out of the way. I was supposed to get a paper towel and I didn't, so I'll grab my handy dandy rag. I'm just putting a little bit of water here in the middle. And then putting a little water in my ink. I never use my ink full strength unless I need a really dark shade. because when you're coloring or using watercolor, it's a lot easier to put extra color on than it is to take it off if you put too much. So I've done a light shade. I'm going to give that just a second to dry and wipe my brush off. I'll give that a second. I'm going to add a little darker shade around the edges. All right, let's do a little, whoops. Oh, my brush wasn't tight. I had too much water coming out. All right, I'm going to take a little water and we're going to just lightly color the leaves. I like to go lightly the first time, trying not to use too much water because I'm just using basic white cardstock. I'm not using watercolor paper or shimmery white, which you could use as well. But I'm just using a little basic white. Just coloring in my leaves, or my stems. We have stems and leaves on here. And this is watercoloring, so it doesn't have to be perfect. I know some of you like it to be perfect. Okay, so I've just done very light shade. And I might go back in with a little bit darker and do some of my inside. Maybe a little shading where you might have a little extra shading from what's in front of it. And we'll do a very light kind of in the background, just kind of fill in there. All right, that's all. This is not hard. Not doing a lot. Okay, I'm gonna take just a little more water, maybe get a little darker shade of purple. And you can use your scrap paper too. I just want to do a little darker shade around the edges of the butterfly. Ooh, pretty. Now I waited until it was dry because if this whole thing was wet, it could bleed into the inside. So I'm kind of waiting and letting it dry a little bit before I add more color. Okay, next I want to do a little bit of orange on the centers of my daffodils. We're just doing these a little bit. I'm just doing light and maybe a little bit going out into the petals. I'm not doing them real dark. I'm more of a light colorer, light sponger. I'm going to do just a little bit on the back of that one. And then I can take a little bit darker shade if I want and just kind of do the insides. Okay. When I clean it, I squeeze and get some water and just kind of wipe it on your rag or your paper towel. Okay, now let's get to our yellow. I need a little more water in there. Okay. And we're kind of blending with that orange that's on our petals. And we can even bring a little yellow up into that. I love these water painters. They're so easy. You don't have to be dipping. And usually if I have coffee and a cup for paintbrushes, I tend to dip my paintbrush in my coffee cup. So it's nice that the water's already in your brush, and these have really nice points on them so you can get some real detail. Then we have some, they come in a pack, I think in a pack of 3 for the water painters, and I'm going to take just a little darker shade and kind of do in the veins of the flowers. So we have a real fine tip, a little bigger tip, and then a nice wide brush for doing washes. Okay, I think that's it. That's all I'm gonna do. Sometimes you just, watercoloring, my mother was a watercolor artist. I never colored. I was more a musician. than an artist, but I did go to shows with her and all that, which was a lot of fun. But she, you know, it's all, that's one thing I learned from her, that it's, you know, it's very fluid. It doesn't have to be perfect. Just putting color on there. All right, now I'm going to pop up my butterfly. All right. Well, if I can get that off my finger, hold on. Ugh, let's try it again. All right, we're gonna pop up our butterfly. He's dry. I didn't use a lot of water, so it dries quickly. All right, let's use a little Wink of Stella on our butterfly, because all butterflies must be sparkly. Oh my gosh, that's so beautiful. Can you see how sparkly that is? Right there, I just had it. I love, love, love Wink of Stella. Okay, now I have this string. If it didn't get dipped in the ink, which maybe a little bit, but that's okay. All right, this is already dry. It's ready to go. So I'm gonna I took a little bit of linen thread. I left a tail of maybe 3 or 4 inches, and I'm gonna wrap this around. Maybe 1, 2, 3, maybe 4 times. And I wrapped it around pretty tightly, and I'm going to tie a bow. So it looks like a pretty bouquet that's been wrapped with string. Isn't that cute? I love it. I am going to leave a little bit of that string. I don't want it too long, but I want to leave a little bit. All right, let's get some dimensionals and pop this up as well. Put one down at the bottom, one over on this side, and one up at the top. That should be plenty. Okay, I'm just tucking in the bottom right under the frame, and then I want a little bit over to show over there. Doesn't need to be a whole lot to overlap. It's kind of overlapping our frame. All right, now we need a sentiment, and I'm going to use Easter Blessings. We'll just go ahead and stamp that in the stays on as well. I'm going to stamp it here, make sure I've got my eyeball going the right way so it's straight. Sometimes I have to tilt my eyeball if it's not going straight. And then I do need to, sample almost fell in there. I need to stamp on something dark so I can see what I'm doing. Let's see. Oh, that's not very straight. Let's try that one more time. Let's angle our stamp up just a hair to the right. Oh, much better. That's why our paper has 2 sides, right? Okay, we're going to kind of span our frame right here. So I'm going to put a mini dimensional on either end, and it's going to be at the same level as the frame. I'll pop that on right there, and then last but not least, let's add some champagne rhinestones with our pick tool. And I'm just going to use, I have a whole bunch of little ones left on this sheet, so I'm just going to use 3 small ones. 1, 2, let's move this one over a little bit, and where do we have a spot? Let's bring it up here. Add a little bling up in that area, and that's it. Isn't that beautiful? I love that card. All right, I hope you enjoyed that. If you would like to place an order this month, I will have the link posted below. And once again, I used the Daffodil Daydream bundle, which is Daffodil Daydream stamp set and the daffodil dies. All right, thanks everyone for stopping by today, and I'll see you back here on Saturday. All right, bye-bye.